still don't have the right to spy on us without a warrant or probable cause. What else can we expect from them? They've been a creature of the CIA from day one. It's been declassified that the CIA has heavily funded Google when it was first established as a company. That's the definition of fascism. Corporate control of the government. At the Economic Forum in Davos, you have a Microsoft executive, Craig Mundie, saying things like, quote, "We need a kind of World Health Organization for the Internet," and justified it with the absurd analogy of, quote, "If you want to drive a car, you have to have a license to say that you're capable of driving a car. The car has to pass a test to say that it's fit to drive, and you have to have insurance." I mean, you don't believe me? Here's a clip of him.
Together is the global internet. And while so far it's been an environment which has largely helped people move forward, it's also become so vital to our national interests in every country and also to our economic well-being that it's become a real target for criminal activity and even for nation-state actions. And I think cybersecurity is going to have to require a much greater focus in the years ahead. In particular, I think two things have to be done first. We need to add a robust identity system to the internet for both people, computers, and software. Now with that, we'll be able to create some accountability and traceability that we don't have today, and that'll be important for law enforcement. I think in addition, though, we have a lot of sick machines on the internet. And the analogy would be we need to find a way, as we do with viruses in the real world, to quarantine and make healthy these compromised computers. Today we don't have the statutory and regulatory means to do that, and it's one of the things I think that we should focus on in 2010 and beyond.
This all goes back to the attempted government takeover of the Internet via the Cybersecurity Act, which I went over in last week's broadcast. We cannot let criminal control freaks like him take over the Internet. We have to defeat the fascist Cybersecurity Act and bring all these criminals to justice for their crimes. With the big media conglomerates being protected by the FCC and other big government regulations, and anyone not controlled by them censored on TV, radio, and newspapers, the Internet is the last vestige of free speech we have left. It is because of Internet radio that I am even allowed to have the show in the first place. I mean, I'm not owned by the Democrats. I'm not owned by the Republicans. I'm not owned by MSNBC. I'm not owned by CNN. I'm not owned by Fox News. I'm a one-man operation. The First Amendment cannot defend itself. Now, I'm going to see if I have any calls. If you want to call into the show, my number is 646-378-1514. Once again, my number, if you want to call into the show, is 646-378-1514. Now, do I have any calls? No, looks like I don't. All right, moving on. Kangaroos at a Portland, Florida zoo have been dying of fluoride poisoning by eating vegetation that became tainted after exposure by a nearby aluminum smelter run by the Alcoa Corporation. The poisoning kills the kangaroos by putting lesions on their bones, which paralyzes them and kills them. A type of fluoride which poisoned these kangaroos is most likely aluminum fluoride, which is a known neurotoxin, which even in small doses can, in addition to the symptoms I've mentioned, it may also cause a brain-wasting disease very similar to Minamata disease, which is caused by mercury poisoning, which is where the disease literally punches holes in your brain until you drop dead. This is unfortunately not an isolated incident, as there are literally thousands of documented cases of wild animals and farm animals dying of fluoride poisoning, in many cases from municipal water sources which contain fluoride, on the unproven hypothesis that it is good for your teeth. The problem has become so pervasive that many zoos have to dig their own wells in order to supply the animals in their care with enough water to meet their basic nutritional needs. Most of the fluoride in our water supply comes from industrial waste, much of it from production of heavy metals such as aluminum, mercury, steel, and iron, and much of it also from nitrates, which form in the production of industrial fertilizer. High levels can also be found in most major brands of toothpaste, which is why they also have a warning not to swallow it. Fluoride occurs in very trace amounts in nature, but not enough to have any significant effect on our health. Though we are not as sensitive, fluoride also affects us humans. Fluoride has been linked to several health problems, including arthritis, asthma, the bone disease skeletal fluorosis, where fluoride calcifies in your bones and causes severe bone and joint pain, chronic fatigue syndrome, the worsening of symptoms if one has diabetes, kidney problems, black spots on the eyes, fibromyalgia, food intolerances, gastrointestinal problems such as irritable bowels, nausea, diarrhea, heartburn and upper bowel pain, gum disease, heart palpitations, hives, blisters, rashes on the skin, and thyroid diseases. Fluoride is so toxic that if a healthy adult were to consume less than a teaspoonful of fluoride, they would die within minutes. Okay, well, I'm going to once again see if I have any calls. If you'd like to call into the show, my number is 646-378-1514. Once again, my number if you want to call into the show is 646-378-1514. No calls. Okay, and for the last story of this week's broadcast, my fellow Americans, there comes a time, as George Orwell once put it, when the most revolutionary act is to tell the truth. And I've been trying to tell the truth on this show, and will continue to do so, is that nobody, not even the government, is above the law. And that is why in today's broadcast, I and all patriots in this country must call for the immediate impeachment and criminal prosecution of President Barack Obama and his entire criminal administration. Since Woodrow Wilson established the doctrine of making the world safe for democracy and the criminal cartel of the Federal Reserve, our nation has slowly but surely since then become not a nation not of laws, as the founders intended, but of men. Over 37 million people died in the glorified turf war of World War I, which he was so hell-bent on getting us into, and since the Federal Reserve was created, the dollar has lost well over 95% of its value, and the middle class is getting wiped out. He said of that decision, "I am a most unhappy man. I have unwittingly ruined my country. A great industrial nation is controlled by a system of credit. Our system of credit is concentrated. The growth of the nation, therefore, and all our activities are in the hands of a few men. We have come to be one of the worst ruled, one of the most completely controlled and dominated governments in the civilized world. No longer a government by free opinion, no longer a government by conviction and the vote of the majority, but a government by the opinion and duress of a small group of dominant men." Since FDR established his New Deal, the states have become further federalized to the point where state sovereignty is defined in the 9th and 10th Amendments in the Constitution, which are meant to restrict all government action on issues not explicitly mentioned in the Constitution, is practically non-existent. Today, even the state National Guards can be usurped by the federal government to go into whatever illegal, unnecessary war they please. And the public has become ever increasingly dependent on government for their very livelihood, waiting in long lines of government buildings to be treated not like a person, but a mere number. Since Harry Truman established the Truman Doctrine of unconstitutional, undeclared preemptive war with the Korean War debacle, which is no more morally defensible than Hitler's invasion of Poland, the military-industrial complex, which Eisenhower later warned us about, have spiraled so far out of control that it seems like we as a nation, we go to war, do not go more than 2 seconds without launching another unconstitutional, undeclared war on yet another country that wasn't a threat to us. Now with troops and permanent bases in over 130 countries,